And we're lucky enough this week to be joined by the Tony-nominated and Emmy award-winning designer of Beetlejuice and many more shows, David Korins. Say hello to Tamworth.
Hello, Tamworth.
It's great to have you on the show. Now, though, I'd like to talk about Hamilton. We're very, very excited to have it coming to Disney+. And I'm just wondering, what was the process from having not heard of Hamilton at all to what it's become now, the iconic design that is that kind of wooden feel? What was the process to get to this point?
Well, I think that the process of designing Hamilton was the same as really designing every show that I do. I always start with an extensive amount of research,
Of course.
as if I was going to try and make the show, design it for a realistic feature film. And so what you do is you sort of do the scene breakdown and figure out what the least amount you need in every scene in order to accomplish the design. And then you
Okay.
research it in a hyper realistic way. I also do a parallel research path, which is to think about abstract settings. With a show like Hamilton, there was no possible way we were going to be able to render 51 songs, 26,000 words,
Yeah.
30 years of history realistically. So we knew we had to come up with some sort of a bigger gesture, a more metaphorical space. And so Tommy Kail, our director, said to me at one point, this is not really the story about the founding of our country. This is the story about the people who created the framework from which to found our country.
Yeah.
And so our design is really this kind of brick foundational space of American architecture tapestry. And then we have almost like a scaffolding in front of it.
Yeah.
So that like the brick layers can kind of get up and add to the layers of that. And that really is the kind of metaphor of the show and of the design.
That sounds incredible. And obviously, we can't wait to hear about it. And to everyone listening at home, if you want to look at the designs that we're talking about, you can view it on my social media. We'll put pictures up there for you to have a look at what we're talking about. And also, another project that you have worked on quite a while ago now was Grease Live, for which you won the Emmy, if I'm thinking correctly. And this was kind of different from the work you're used to working on stage. So this was for TV. Did you have to adapt the way you worked for this kind of project with such a massive scale?
Yeah, well, the design process is always the same, but the kind of output or distribution method is always different. So with Grease Live, Tommy Kail, also who directed Hamilton, directed Grease Live, and he came to me and said, I'd like you to think about doing Grease Live. And I said, if we're going to do it, I want to try and take advantage of all of the things that theater does well, and then all the things that film and television do well. And they do different things well. Theater does kind of vista scene changes really well, where you can see one thing turn into the other right before your eyes. But in theater, we always talk about, oh, wouldn't it be so great to have like a revelation of space? Like, wouldn't it be so amazing if the Phantom of the Opera could be rowing his gondola, 300 feet towards you? But you can't do that because there's a back wall and there's parameters of the space.
Yeah.
But in film, you can do that. And so we, one of the great things that I think we struck on with Grease Live was to be able to go inside and outside to multiple different sound stages at a time. So we could really let theater do what it could do. But then when we wanted to go to a carnival, we could actually break out, open the walls, and go out into a full-scale carnival, which you just can't do in the theater.
Yeah.
It was really, really exciting to kind of crack the code of that.
Yeah. Because with Grease Live as well, you can see the actors actually moving from the stage, different stages as well, getting to the point. It kind of
the famous golf cart transitions.
Yeah. It kind of breaks the fourth wall in a way, and it gives you a better appreciation of kind of the work that's gone into putting it on, because it's only one night they got to put that together, which was incredible.
That's right. Well, one night to film it and shoot it, several months to put it together.
Months and months of preparation, of course. Okay, so as we're talking now, as the show goes out, it will be unfortunate that Beetlejuice was one of the shows that you one of the shows you designed, will have unfortunately closed by now. But due to the lockdown, of course, Beetlejuice had its last performance ages ago, and we weren't really aware that it would be its last performance. But are you able to reveal any future plans for Beetlejuice? Anything in the
Well,
timeline?
well, listen, I, like many people, was thrilled that Beetlejuice picked up such incredible steam,
Yeah,
momentum. You know, there are so few shows that start with out of town reviews that were kind of lukewarm. When we retooled the show dramatically for New York, and it really caught on like amazing. And
yeah,
I
it
and
has
I
a
think
massive fan
TikTok and
base.
other social media, you know, and outlets along with the cast album, you know, it's been streamed hundreds and hundreds of millions of times.
Yeah,
And I think that that momentum really got it, kind of created a zeitgeist moment. I would be surprised if Beetlejuice doesn't come back.
okay,
Um, I think, you know, post pandemic, there's going to be some shows that had been around for a long time that I think are going to wind up being a little tone deaf. I think that they depend on, you know, tourism and different kinds of markets that might not be able to be held up by the new world after this whole pandemic is over.
yeah,
And I think Beetlejuice is not one of those shows. I think it is, an amazing family show. It is a huge fan favorite show, and it's the kind of show that has a rare spectacle. Maybe only like Disney shows have that kind of
yeah.
spectacle. So this is, I think, a show that I would be really surprised if you didn't see us sneak into a new theater, and have a go at it.
Yeah, because the scale of Beetlejuice, I was lucky enough to see it on Broadway. The scale is absolutely incredible. You have a house that transforms itself completely 3 different times. Now, where did that idea come from? That is an incredible feat of
I
engineering.
mean, I think some of that idea came from the movie. You know, the the original source material has the Maitlands, of course, dying and then being trapped in the house. And then we get to see what happens when the Dietzes take over and they bring in all that kind of bad modern art. So
Yeah.
it's in the DNA of the show. Alex Timbers, our director, said to me very early on, and he and I worked on the show for about 5.5 years, before it got to Broadway. So he
Wow.
said to me, even in one of our first meetings, I think this show is kind of like, um, you know, the house becomes a prison for the characters, and
Okay.
also it's its own character. And
Yeah.
wouldn't it be so incredible and delicious to watch this thing pay out over and over and over again into the different, iterations of, ownership? So the Maitlands to the Dietzes, and then eventually Beetlejuice and
Yeah.
Lydia when they haunt the house. And, having a massive house allowed us to, actually change out all the furniture, all the walls,
Yeah.
the railings, the balustrade, the doors, the windows, and all the light fixtures. And it's really a pretty stunning effect every time you see it. You get to see it, in a new way.
Yeah, you get this grand reveal at the beginning when the house comes forwards, and they've all got really distinct color palettes as well. It's great. It really fits perfectly. So
Oh,
now
thank you.
onto a broader question. What was the most challenging kind of show for you to approach as a designer?
Oh, I mean, you know, I think that each show has its own set of, baked-in
Yeah,
challenges.
very unique.
I will say that Beetlejuice, um, because of its incredibly difficult engineering and the
Yeah,
scale, and also the integration of special effects, pyrotechnics, puppetry, illusions, magic, and the normal lighting, sound, you know, acoustical landscape was, perhaps the most challenging. You know, we designed that set. I can't even tell you how many different versions of it. Maybe 20 or 30 different versions.
wow.
You know, and every single piece of scenery has a light, a speaker, a special effect, you know, an access panel for a puppet or an actor, you know, and then of course it has to switch over 3 different times.
Yeah,
That design, is an incredibly difficult, and ambitious machine.
it really, really does have like everything. You really threw everything at this show.
We
Um,
sure did.
and now, of course, your latest kind of project to be opened was Mrs. Doubtfire, which is something that none of us really expected for there to be a musical of. Kind of talk us through how you've gone about this as well. And unfortunately, because it's closed, when are we gonna what are we gonna see with the future of Mrs. Doubtfire? Do you think?
Well, first of all, I think whenever you do a show that is a movie, you have to ask yourself, why do we want this? Why should this be a Broadway musical?
Yeah.
And the thing about um, uh, Mrs. Doubtfire is we have answered that question like dramatically. So,
Okay.
there are hugely dramatic moments. This is, I think, as the producer likes to say, this show hits all four quadrants. It's a perfect date night. It's a perfect family show. It's a perfect single ticket. It is heartbreaking. It is heartwarming. It is hilariously funny. And it's one of the most endearing shows I have ever seen, and I cannot wait for everyone to see it. I think it's
Yeah.
so great.
It's on such a shame that obviously this lockdown has caused it to close before it opened. It's so sad, and
I know we had.
hopefully,
I think we had shown it to 4 preview audiences. It'll be back,
yeah,
and Rob McClure, the guy who plays Mrs. Doubtfire, is he is so unbelievably talented and so perfect in the role. In a weird way, he makes you forget about Robin Williams, which is an impossible task. And he's incredible. He finds his own way in to mine the material, and it's really stunning.
well, all the cast and creative team have really big shoes to fill, and I'm sure you've done it really well. I can't wait to see it, even if it potentially comes over to London as well, hopefully.
Fingers, toes, and everything crossed.
Yeah, of course. Okay. So we're almost coming to the end of the interview for the show, and I ask this question to everyone that comes on The Sound of Musicals. Now, what is your favorite musical and favorite song from that musical that you haven't worked on?
Whoa.
Yeah, I know.
Wow. Um, Jeez, is it possible to plead the fifth? Has anyone ever pled the fifth? Um,
I get that a couple
that
times.
that's really, really difficult.
Oh, I know.
Um, you know, I, I, I literally, um, I, oh my God, I don't know that I'm able to choose something.
I'm sorry.
I have done probably 1,000 interviews in the last 3 years, and I've never been stumped. Um, and
Have I
I'm
achieved
gonna
the
go with.
impossible?
I'm just like my mind is going back and forth. I happen to be reading that a friend of mine is going to be working on Fiddler, and I like my mind went through Fiddler. Then I went to
Yeah.
Chorus Line. Then I went to. I mean, I'm just like someone this morning when I woke up. My daughter was playing Annie, and I did design Annie, but like for a brief second, like I have become an emotional ball of mush since really since having kids, but like recently at the coronavirus, I'll cry
Yeah.
at anything. So I've listened to so many musicals and cried through so many of them. I can't pick one. I'm sorry. I
You
can't do
can't
it.
pick one at all.
I can't do it.
Oh no.
I know. I know. I'm not gonna do it.
I have achieved the impossible here.
You did it. You did the impossible.
Okay,